we have to set up a permission structure. There is no perfect way to handle this. There is no perfect way to sift through.
That's Brooke Baldwin, former CNN anchor, the woman millions of Americans trusted to deliver the news every night. And in that quiet moment on a friend's podcast, she said 7 words that shattered her own carefully built silence. I've never spoken it out loud until you. Stop right there, because here's what you need to understand before we go any further. Brooke Baldwin didn't just break silence on a bad date or a messy breakup. She revealed something that happened to her 25 years ago, something she buried so deep she thought she'd never have to dig it up. And the reason she's speaking now? A global investigation into something called the Rape Academy.
In shocking group chats, men encourage one another to drug and assault their wives and swap tips and getting away with it. And here to discuss this very troubling.
An underground network of men drugging their own wives.
Drugging her to be unconscious. And then there are these hashtags on these porn websites. By the way, the website's not the dark web, like just broad daylight, where it's called like hashtag eye checks, where they're like pulling their eyelids up.
Yes.
So you can see that they're completely, or their limbs, or, you know, so they're out.
And posting the videos online. So before you click away thinking this is just another sad celebrity story, let me paint a picture for you. Imagine a 21-year-old Brooke, Carolina blue robe, graduation weeks away, sitting at the Beverly Hills Hotel polo lounge with a girlfriend. Spring break, a drink, maybe 2. Then her friend leaves. 2 men approach. She remembers a drink they gave her. And then, nothing. Just fragments. The back of an SUV, the Chateau Marmont, waking up on a cold tile bathroom floor.
The scale of people that viewed this was 60 million?
It was like something like 62, and I know.
One survivor, Zoe Watts, was drugged by her husband for 16 years.
This is rape. Doesn't matter if you're unconscious, you're not consenting. It's your husband, you're not consenting.
Of course.
And so some people, and I say some, like I was talking to a lawyer out of Texas yesterday who actually represented a lot of the young women who were survivors from Larry Nassar, and she was like, Brooke, 98%.
On one site alone. So here's the ticking clock question, and I want you to really sit with it. If a former CNN anchor with resources, education, and a platform gaslit herself for 25 years, how many everyday women are doing the same thing right now in silence, while their partners scroll through group chats coaching each other on the perfect dose of Ambien?
Right, so look at the cover-up of the Epstein files.
Yes.
And I want to show how depraved this is. Here is just one screenshot from these group chats. Let's pop this.
This isn't just a Brooke Baldwin story. This is a story about a culture that teaches women to blame themselves and men to believe they're entitled to unconscious bodies. And the irony is deafening. The same men who posture as strong, the Pete Hegseths, the Trumps, the ones who need to sedate their wives to feel powerful, they are the weakest people in the room. Brooke's co-host on the podcast called it perfectly. They have to sedate their own wives in order to dominate them. That's not strength. That's a psychological flaw you could drive a truck through. Now, let's talk about the public fallout, because this is where the celebrity drama engine really kicks in. After Brooke published her Substack, she didn't get a wave of media requests from her old colleagues. She got silence. CNN didn't put her back on air to discuss it. The corporate machine she spent 2 decades inside, the one that once fielded PR calls because she got watery-eyed about Kavanaugh, that machine kept moving without her. Brooke left CNN. So did Don Lemon. So did a lot of others. And they're all building independent platforms now, free from bullet points and cautious producers. But here's the question that keeps me up at night. Why did it take a Rape Academy investigation for Brooke to finally speak? Why couldn't she have said this in 2018, when she was still on the world's biggest news network? Because the rules of journalism, the ones that say never make it about yourself, those rules protect the institution, not the person. They protect the powerful men who run newsrooms. They do not protect the 21-year-old on a bathroom floor. And that brings us to the unanswered question, the one I want you to carry with you after this video ends. How many other Brooke Baldwins are sitting in anchor chairs right now, behind makeup and teleprompters, carrying a trauma they've never spoken out loud?
And what will it finally take for them to break their silence? Because here's what Brooke taught us. Courage is contagious. She said it herself. One woman
down, and it's like, all right, strangulation, whatever.
Hold up.
But she stopped. And that's the whole point. Before you go, I need you to do something. Hit the like button, share this video with someone who needs to hear that their story matters, and subscribe to Celebrity News Worldpeer. Turn on those notifications, because we are not done exposing the secrets that celebrities, journalists, and the powerful want you to ignore. We break down the biggest scandals as they unfold in real time, and we don't flinch. Now, drop a comment below. Do you think corporate media protects abusers by forcing journalists to stay neutral about their own trauma? Yes or no, and why? I'll be reading every single response. This has been Celebrity News Worldpeer. See you in the next breakdown.
Security. If you think about a lot of these men in the cabinet, and then these men that are trying to make themselves feel powerful, but they have to sedate their own wives in order to dominate them, that there is a psychological flaw.
16 years. She didn't know until he confessed after church, as casually as if you were reading a grocery list. His justification? At least I'm not cheating on you. Brooke read that investigation. She interviewed Zoe. And then something happened. Her body started to vibrate, as she put it.
Which to me is deeper than denial. It's intentionally, it's almost like
dangerous,
willful denial, where you're gaslighting yourself.
The book The Body Keeps the Score talks about how trauma lives in our cells, not our memories. And 25 years after that night at the Beverly Hills Hotel, Brooke's body finally said enough. So she wrote a Substack, not a CNN script vetted by lawyers and PR, her own words. And she told the full truth for the first time. The drink, the blackout, the SUV, the Chateau Marmont, the bathroom floor, the man she had to physically push out of her room. And then the part that breaks your heart, the friend who sat with her by the pool the next day and said, "Oh my God, Brooke, you could have AIDS." Not, "Are you okay?" Not, "Let's go to the police." Shame, fear, gaslighting. Brooke started lashing herself, she admits. She became a strong woman who knew how to say no, and then punished herself for not saying it loud enough back then. And here is where we hit the moral refrain of this entire story, the line you need to tattoo on your brain because it explains everything. She gaslit herself. Say it with me. She gaslit herself. Brooke Baldwin gaslit herself for 25 years. Told herself she must have brought it on, that it wasn't real assault because it happened at a fancy hotel, not a dark alley, that she was young and dumb, that a journalist doesn't make herself the story. She gaslit herself, and she is not alone, because the women in that CNN investigation, Zoe Watts and others, they gaslit themselves too. Extra groggy in the morning? Must be the kids, must be the new house, must be stress at work. They would never think.
I was like, I didn't even think like how gross and cringeworthy and shamey that was. And then I started shaming myself.
With a man she didn't know, half-dressed, groggy, confused, and the very first thought that ran through her southern-raised, people-pleasing 21-year-old brain, I must have brought this on myself. That visual anchor, a young woman on a bathroom floor blaming herself instead of the predator, that is the emotional core of this entire story. And it's the reason Celebrity Newswikipedia exists. Because we don't just cover the drama, we expose what the headlines are hiding. So if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button right now. Because what Brooke Baldwin finally admitted will change how you see every polished, powerful woman in media. Now let's rewind. For years, Brooke Baldwin was the face of CNN's afternoon lineup. Polished, professional, the kind of anchor who never made it about herself. She covered terror attacks, political chaos, the rise of Trump. And in 2018, she anchored wall-to-wall coverage of Dr. Christine Blasey Ford's testimony against Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh. Day after day, Brooke watched survivors call into C-SPAN, sharing their own stories of sexual assault. Her own producer, a 20-something young woman, walked into Brooke's office and told her she'd been raped in college. Another producer called to confess her own buried trauma. And something inside Brooke started to crack. Because while she was being the trusted journalist, the safe space for everyone else's pain, she was also running from her own.
At the end of one of those long Kavanaugh hearing days, she wrote a monologue. She read it on air, but she tiptoed. She avoided one pronoun, I. She said, "This happened," instead of "this happened to me." Her voice changed, her eyes got watery. And then CNN's phone lines lit up, not with support, but with people accusing her of making it about herself. So she shut down, buried it again, and went back to being the anchor who never flinched. That was 2018. Fast forward to now. A CNN investigation by Paris Bureau Chief Saskia Van Doorn exposed something horrifying. A global network of husbands drugging their wives with sleeping medication, crushing it into tea, milkshakes, whatever, raping them while unconscious, and then uploading the videos to mainstream porn sites under hashtags like #iChecks.